Okay, I'm going to record this first in English and then in Spanish. Primero voy a grabar esto en inglés y después en español. I was wondering if Donald Trump is going to investigate people before deporting them, just like they do in Mexico. If you arrive undocumented to Mexico, they'll let you know that you're actually undocumented wherever you go, even the moment you are arriving to the Mexico-U.S. border. They even set traps to you, like the cashiers, leaving the cashier open. And also there are people in the at the malls, outside the malls, like keeping an eye on you if you steal something. Even in the aisles of the supermarket, they are keeping an eye on you. That's what happened to me. I don't know how they knew that I was undocumented. I did something they didn't show in the news. So I entered Mexico with no piece of ID, and got a Mexican ID to travel across across Mexico. I don't know why he's doing that. It's like letting me know that he knows what I'm saying. I mean, Guatemala. So I don't know how he knows what I'm saying. So I get to see it in Spanish. He was honking, letting me know that he knew that he knew what I was saying in this audio. Bueno, el que iba ahorita pitando siempre hacen eso, que me hacen saber que saben que estoy hablando. So, when I got to the Mexico-U.S. border, I arrived to Rio Bravo first, to Coahuila, and where they threatened me of death in Tijuana. It was in Tijuana. So, they tap your cell phone in social media, and with posts and videos of people who look physically like your neighbors and relatives, they'll let you know that they know who you are. It's something that happened to me ever since I was in Cancun, Quintana Roo, in Mexico. When they made threats of that to me when I was renting in Tijuana, they told me everything about me, even passwords and users of my social media accounts. All I know is that people from my country got me into a game. That's what they told me in San Isidro, California, and Tijuana too. So I don't know what game they have, because they have moved the U.S. Embassy to a place they also call San Isidro 715 in Guatemala City. So I don't know what game they were playing with it. There are a lot of places with the names of places from Mexico, from the U.S., here in Guatemala. I tried to cross the Rio Bravo River, and I know that around 9 p.m. they released drones around the river. After crossing the river and the Reeds area and crossing the highway and the dirt road, you get to a neighborhood. Whereas arriving, you have to climb it, and you arrive to this neighborhood, where I don't know if they call the sheriff, but the sheriff stops you and asks you if you have U.S. papers to be in the U.S. territory. By not having them, he calls the Border Patrol. The Border Patrol takes you to their facilities and gets your biometrics, and they release you by the international bridge, Camino Real Bridge, something like that. By the way, I don't know how people died crossing the Rio Bravo River, because I crossed several times that river, and turns out that close to the international bridge, the water is less deep. So I remember it poorly reach my name. So I don't know why people said that they actually died at the while crossing the Rio Bravo River. And other thing I realized is that there were people from Guatemala, from the departments of Guatemala. The departments of Guatemala are the same as the states are to the United States. So they were saying that they were dying at the detention centers where all the illegal aliens were sent to because of not having any medical assistance. So I don't know why they were stopped, because when I crossed the Rio Bravo River, they just got me. It seems like somebody called the sheriff. The sheriff stopped me, asked me if I had U.S. papers to be in the U.S. territory, and by not having them, they took me to their facilities, got my biometrics, and they released me by the international bridge. So I don't know why that happened with those people from Guatemala and maybe other countries. I also that's why, and that's the thing. All the things that I went through, and I'm still going through, just to tell the truth about what really happens at the Mexico-U.S. border. You see, because they fractured my jaw, they got me hopping from job to job, and that's not fair. I never wanted to be part of this. So basically, if you arrive undocumented, they don't let you get a job. He's doing that on purpose. Está haciendo eso a propósito. These are the kind of people that, I don't know, it's like the kind of people who are trying to let you know that, I don't know, they're like self-entitled, something like that. No sé, es el tipo de persona que, no sé, como que, no sé, altanera o algo así. Altanera o algo así, tratan de demostrar algo, no lo sé, la verdad. Es gente que no conozco. Yeah, those other people, I don't know who they are. I have never seen them before, so nunca los he visto, no sé entonces qué sucede con ellos. Well, going back to what I was saying, all I know is that crossing the Rio Bravo River is a big lie. You arrive to a neighborhood, and it's not really easy to get out of that neighborhood. The neighborhood is like those you see in the movies. So yeah, that's what happens. While crossing the Rio Bravo, there are videos where there are no drones, and there's no border patrol boat, and there's no border patrol watching from the hills. But I know by self-experience that they do that. There's actually a border patrol boat, and there are even people from the houses near to the Rio Bravo River keeping an eye, so you can listen when people are passing by and stuff like that. Those houses are not that far from the Rio Bravo River, so crossing the desert is almost the same thing. The border patrol releases drones in the evening, and if you look at them, they stay hovering around. The drones also detect movement and cell phone signals, so it's not possible to. So, as I was saying, it turns out that the drones detect movement in cell phone signals. so I don't know how they record in while crossing the justice. So I gotta move from this place. Well, it turns out that the drones detect cell phone signals and movement, and I don't know how they film all those videos. You record all those videos while crossing the desert, because I remember that they also asked me to wrap the bottle of water I had with a t-shirt, because there's the border patrol watching from the hills in the desert, and they can also see like the light reflected from the plastic bottle of water. So if that happens with a plastic bottle of water, how come they weren't detected while crossing the desert with the light reflected in the lens of a camera while they're filming in the desert when they're actually crossing the desert? So I don't know if the border patrol lets them to record those videos, but that's my experience crossing the desert from Ciudad Juarez to Laredo. So I remember I saw water lines, and when I was wandering in the desert, turns out that I found a tower with power lines. So there are people living in the desert. How come they are always saying in the news that there are immigrants trying to cross the desert and actually died crossing the desert? That's a lie. So when I got to Tijuana, the first thing they told me is if I wanted to smoke crico. Crico is like the crystal in Spanish. I don't know what's the name like of that drug, but it's actually a drug. When I just got to Tijuana, so they made it clearer. After a couple of months living in Tijuana, I asked for the refugee status, because Border Patrol agent told me to ask for refugee in Tijuana to actually stay in Tijuana for around 3 years, and after becoming a Mexican citizen, I would get U.S. visa I would get U.S. visa easier than it should actually be. So turns out that out of nowhere they started like talking this way, like there was somebody talking behind the walls of the apartment I was renting, and they told me that I couldn't use some apps on my cell phone, and I tried to type in Google. They told me you should try to open Google, and you won't be able to open Google. And well, it turns out I wasn't able to open Google. So I don't know how come the cell phone carriers didn't talk about it. Mexican cell phone carriers and U.S. cell phone carriers, because I had a a cell phone from Mexico and a cell phone from the U.S. And something else that happened is that my data on my cell phone just got consumed and I didn't use it. In 4 days I didn't have any data on my cell phone. So in YouTube Music changed from the trial period to premium out of nowhere, and they told me they were gonna do it. You listen to these people talking to you, it's like a lady and sometimes a boy talking to you everywhere you go in Tijuana when they start threatening you of death. That's why they offer you drugs once you arrive to Tijuana. That's why when they talk about crossing illegally the border, they are always talking about people trafficking drugs and stuff like that. But it's not drugs. I never did drugs in Tijuana. I never lived anything. I never experienced anything like that before. You see? So they let you know what you're doing on your cell phone, and same thing they're doing here in Guatemala. You see? So they find out everything about you. Everything. Let's say if you had an affair, how was your behavior when you were a kid, stuff like that. They find out everything about you. So this takes me to this question about deportations, because they finally let me cross to California, San Diego, after threatening me of death. I was living in motels. After all this situation happened, the ATMs didn't recognize the PIN number I had for the debit card I was using. It was from Banco Azteca Bank. So they try to make you stay uncommunicated with your relatives and have no access to your money, especially if you arrive with a Mexican ID, because they also have my fingerprints, because I had an INE, which is a Mexican ID. So when they take you to the US, because I heard something about it a couple of years, several years ago, let's say like a decade or stuff like that, they ask you to get a Mexican ID. They set you traps, and if you fall into a trap like stealing and stuff like that, I don't know what they do with you, because that's what they have been trying to do with me here in Guatemala, like setting me traps, not letting me get a job, not having money, and see if I would steal. Because even the cops, even the police patrols, they're like keeping an eye on me. But it's not like keeping an eye on me, like keeping me safe. It's like waiting for me to steal something, because they know I don't have any money. That's something I was talking to somebody today, that they don't let me get a job. It's like they are organized to know in which exact place they were gonna let me get a job, and that's not fair, because I'm not playing any games and I never did anything wrong. You see, and I need to talk the truth, because they talk about shelters, and the shelters for immigrants, they don't accept you after they threaten you of death. Actually, that's why there are people doing drugs, getting drunk outside the shelters, the immigrant shelters, so that you couldn't get they don't let you stay at these shelters. So that's all the lie behind all the situation, and I need to talk about it because I'm tired of overcoming traps. They use witchcraft. I'm not expecting anyone to believe me, but I know it's true. It's like you're having an urge to grab stuff against your will. So they do that. You have to overcome this urge. That's something I don't do. You see? Because it's against your will. It's not like you want to do it. I'm in a hurry because I'm late for work, and out of nowhere somebody crosses with, let's say, money in their hands or a cell phone, and out of nowhere you feel like grabbing the stuff, and you start wondering why this is happening. If I'm not thinking of that, I'm just thinking that I should get on the bus because I'm already late for work. You see, that's the truth about immigration. This is the real immigration. So they also get all your information, your relatives' information. They make calculation how they are apparently killing your relatives. That's something they did. Just a second. That's something they did in Tijuana, and also at the Tijuana's airport. Because after I got back to Guatemala in 2021, this war between Russia and Ukraine started. And it was weird because when I was asking for the refugee status at the Mexican Migration Institute in Tijuana, there were people in the line, which I don't know if they were Mexicans who spoke Russian or Ukrainian, any Celtic language, but they were actually speaking any Celtic language. And I was like, how come they were talking Russian, Ukrainian, any Celtic language? And this Ukraine versus Russia war started. So there's a game behind all of that, because there's also something that happens. They also play with the names of the countries. Ukraine. You're gonna cry. You're gonna rat out people. So I don't know if they did it to hide the fact that they'll make you listen how they apparently killing your relatives when you're at the Mexico US the Tijuana airport. So because when I got back to Guatemala, before I started talking about what really happens at the Mexico-U.S. border, this war between Ukraine versus Russia started, and I don't know if they were trying to clean what they did to me, making me listen how they were supposedly killing my relatives at the same airport where these Ukrainians and Russians arrived to receive the relatives from this fake war. Because if you check the news, the videos they share, they seem like they got him from other news. They don't seem to be the same takes from just one recording. So besides of that, I remember people talking on the cell phone. I remember that I didn't know where to go when I was in Tijuana, and there was a lady driving a cab, and she started talking to someone, and she made me listen. There a lady who knew my name, Daniel. She was saying, "No, Daniel, forgive me for taking you to Tijuana. They're doing all of this to me because you got there undocumented." You see, they were calling me. I don't know why they were calling me right now. Hmm? So they actually listen to what I'm saying. Huh? And I wasn't expecting the call from anyone. And it's a phone number, I don't know. It's something else that happens at the Mexico-U.S. border. You get messages on WhatsApp or calls from unknown numbers. You see, and sometimes they use the name of your relatives, or not, or names that sound like the names of your relatives. And something else that happened is that Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, they changed the domain name to Meta. So something else. They're doing that in order for me not to remember everything I have to talk about. So yeah. Besides of that, well, they let me cross the Mexico-U.S. border, hidden inside a car, SUV car, and they got me to San Diego. From San Diego, they took me to another place in California. And the places you don't talk about, you can listen the names in songs or anything related to the music, movies, stuff like that. That's something I'm really impressed about, because I didn't realize of that. I remember, let's say like a decade before, there were people saying that I should pay attention to what they say in the soap operas, novellas, movies, music, because they drop hints. And I realized it's true, because after this thing happened, there was a song where there was like the head of someone inside a refrigerator, and that's something that happened when this lady received this lady from the cab was talking to someone, and who actually was killing my sister. Well, this someone who was talking to this lady who was driving the cab, I just took, was killing apparently someone who said it was my sister. So that's the thing. That they don't talk about it. That's why I know all these caravans of immigrants, it's nothing but a lie. They're just creating a bad reputation to real migrants in order for them to be treated the way they talk about in the news. You see? Because people who are in the U.S., I don't know why they don't talk about it, but people who are in the U.S., they got to the U.S. with an American visa. I know that because in the neighborhood I live here in Guatemala, there was a coyote, and they were always talking about getting a Mexican visa and stuff like that. So they're legally in the U.S. and sometimes after most of the times when there's someone who signs a responsibility letter for them in the U.S. Just a second. We're doing all of that on purpose. Están haciendo eso a propósito. So, when there's someone who signs a responsibility letter for those people, they get a work permit. I have to check into that on Google, and turns out that this work permit grants to the owner migration stability. So how come they're talking about deportations? How are you gonna deport someone who has a work permit if they have a migration stability? What deportations are you actually talking about? So, what else? I also know by self-experience that there are people who have complaints filed against them in Guatemala, and the judge dismissed them because they could have the possibility of getting U.S. papers. That's the case with one of my relatives. I don't want to discuss his personal life, but there was a lady who ruined his marriage, and she had a baby with him. She went with him she went first. Well, actually, he went first to the U.S. One of my relatives received him in the U.S. And then she went. This lady who ruined his marriage, she went to the U.S. She got back to Guatemala. She was like trying to look for trouble when I was running a little business with one of my relatives here in Guatemala. So I had to file a complaint against her, and the judge just dismissed the complaint. And she's still in the U.S. And actually, after they fractured my mandible, the son she had with my brother, he went to the U.S. according to what they told me. So I don't know. She's currently living with some another guy in the U.S. So I don't know if she's waiting to get U.S. papers, or with this son she had with my brother, or the son or daughter she had with this other guy she's living with in the U.S. So I need to talk about this. I'm going to say it wherever it's possible. It's not possible that this is happening, because everything they told me in Tijuana was true. And they told me that they caused the death of my mom, the death of my grandma, just because people who want to have migrants in the U.S. Just a second. People who want to have migrants in the U.S., they decide what is it gonna be of you, even if you live or you die. So it's not fair that somebody else just comes and wants to be in the U.S., get U.S. papers, in spite of your relatives who died because of all this game they have with migration. And they don't talk because they mess with you. So that's why I'm talking about all of this. And I hope maybe Trump or Sheinbaum, this lady president from Mexico, get to listen to it. Because it's not fair that this happens. I'm not interested in having U.S. papers because I know by self-experience, I don't expect anyone to believe me. But they can do witchcraft to you. To have problems with alcoholism and to take drugs. That's why I'm not interested in having any U.S. papers or live in my country, Guatemala. I'm afraid of my life. That's the truth. They just want to use me to get their U.S. papers, and then whatever happens to you is a situation you have to deal with. We already got what we wanted from you. To have a way to make others get U.S. papers. We know we didn't let you continue your education in Guatemala. We never let you get any working experience because we just wanted to use it to make it simple for others to get U.S. papers. So I know by self-experience that crossing illegally the border is a big lie. So the best thing that Mexicans could do is closing the Mexico-U.S. border from the Mexican side. So they can stop complaining, and there won't be any immigrants, caravans trying to cross illegally the border. And same thing should happen from the United States side. So I ask you this migrants relative in the immigrant I once was, because it's not fair every day going through this situation, not being able to have job stability, continue my education, just because they want me to leave my country. When I need something, there are no Americans, there are no Mexicans, there are no Guatemalans asking me if I have enough money to buy any food supply I need. There are no one, and I never asked to be part of this. You could say, well, we found out everything about him and he was getting drunk. I wasn't eligible to leave my country, but you made me leave my country. You made me leave my country. I wasn't eligible to leave my country, and I'm not interested in living in my country anymore. So Now I just realized that whatever they do in order for you to get drunk, it's witchcraft, and they deny it because they do it here in Guatemala. It's been 3 years. I don't get drunk. Sometimes they let me know that it's witchcraft because I walk past in front of the bar and I feel like getting in and I already know the truth of what they did to me because in Tijuana they showed me that they were actually doing Santeria, like magic or witchcraft or whatever you want to call it, because I don't know much of that. I don't practice that, so that's all I know. And they show me that it's actually witchcraft what they are doing to you when you are always getting drunk. See, so they did all of that just to have me, just to manipulate me, to create a bad reputation and manipulate me, which I think the same thing with the fake immigrants caravans are intended to do the same, to manipulate immigrants. And I'm talking about all of this because there are people, I know there are people, good people who have been good citizens in their country of origin, and there are also good citizens in the U.S. And it's not fair to start deportation just because. So the same way you have been investigating people who really arrive undocumented to Mexico and the U.S., the same way you should investigate the immigrants who have no residency or no citizenship, because it's not fair that they can't go back to their country because, well, just listen to what I'm going through. I don't have any job stability. I can't continue my education. I can't finish my studies. So that's why they cannot come back, because they are forcing them to go back to the U.S. It's not fair that you just deport them as if nothing's going on. So the same way you were investigating people who actually arrive undocumented to Mexico and the U.S., the same way you should investigate those immigrants who have more than 5 years, 10 years in the U.S. And those who are eligible, who have been good citizens in the country of origin and the U.S., you should give them the opportunity to become to get U.S. papers, because it's not fair that you are playing that the U.S. government are playing with the time of people. We're not talking about nationalities. We're talking about time, people's time. Nobody's gonna give you back the time. I know by own experience. So, just wanted to talk about it because, at least from my point of view, it's not fair that they play with your time. Nobody's gonna give you back the time. And, well, I think that's all I have to say. Crossing illegally, well, just as a recap, crossing the Rio Bravo, it's a big lie. They call the sheriff. The sheriff calls the border patrol. They take your biometrics. They release you by the international bridge. Crossing the desert is the same thing. They release drones. Those drones detect movement and cell phone signals. Jumping the border wall, it's also a lie. In less than 5 minutes, the border patrol arrives, and it's easier to cross the Mexico-U.S. border hidden inside a SUV car by the port of entry. But if you arrive undocumented, they don't let you get a job. That's the truth. So, people who are actually in the U.S. arrived with a with an American visa, and if they got the American visa, the U.S. government knew the amount of migrants in the U.S. So, I don't know if they investigate, if you have complaints filed against you. They also know how the amount of migrants in the U.S. So they cannot complain. They were entering illegally. I entered illegally, and I could only stay 6 months. I speak English. I have had a lot of jobs. So why am I back to my country? I went to the consulate of Guatemala in California, and they didn't give me my passport. So those people arrived to the U.S. With American visa, and there was somebody who signed responsibility letter for them. And something else I hope Trump does while being president is end this game. Put an end to this game they had with making people leave their country. And there are people who, in my case, I like languages, but I'm not interested in living in my country. And you cannot just come and take the decision for somebody else. Because you don't have courage enough to fight for your interests. We're in 2024. I mean, we're not in 15th century or something like that. So I think we already have like a self-opinion. We can make our own decisions. You see, so I just don't want to think about what it could have been of me if I didn't speak English. So something I really expect from Trump while being president is putting an end to that migration game that nobody talks about in the news. I'm tired of people playing with my payments. Like, you know what, Kim? The day after tomorrow, we're gonna pay you. You know what? We don't have the money. I'm tired of that. Just because they want you to go to the U.S. Because after you are gone, there are other people who are also going to the U.S. So I hope Trump does anything